Imagine for a second that you are in Las Vegas.
All right.
The year is 1991. You're young, you're hanging out with a writer friend of yours, and as a joke, just this completely ironic anti-establishment bit, you get married.
Like a full Vegas wedding.
Exactly. But you don't file the paperwork at the local courthouse because, I mean, why would you? You're just being subversive. You leave Vegas, go back to your life, build this massive decades-long career, and just, live your truth.
Right, it's just a funny story at parties.
Right. But fast forward 20 years to 2012, that friend tries to get married for real, only to discover this massive logistical hurdle. Your joke marriage is, in fact, entirely legally binding.
Oh, my God.
You have been married for 2 decades and had absolutely no idea.
That sounds like the inciting incident of a quirky mid-90s romantic comedy or something.
It really does.
But it's an entirely real event from the source material we are looking at today.
Yeah, and it's the perfect introduction to the subject of today's deep dive. We are taking a really comprehensive look through the Wikipedia page of a true original, the comedian, actress, and honestly trailblazer, Janeane Garofalo.
She is just such a fascinating figure.
She really is. And our mission today isn't just to recite a biography, We are going to explore the life of a woman who pioneered alternative comedy, forced Hollywood to reckon with its own absurd standards, waded fiercely into cable news combat, and basically built a reality that played strictly by her own rules.
Yeah, her story is this incredible lens for looking at the cultural shifts of the last 30 years. She wasn't just a passive participant in the 90s and 2000s. She was actively reshaping what it meant to be a performer. She constantly forced the collision of, underground counterculture with this highly polished mainstream media machinery.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand how she changed comedy, we really first have to look at what she was rebelling against.
Right, starting with her early life.
Exactly. And it makes perfect sense that one of the fiercest, progressive, anti-establishment voices of the last few decades was actually born to an Exxon executive.
I know, the irony is amazing.
It is. Her father was in the corporate oil world. Her mother, who tragically passed away from cancer when Janeane was just 24, worked as a secretary in the petrochemical industry.
Wow, that's incredibly young to lose a parent.
Yeah, it's devastating. And they eventually moved the family to Houston, Texas. And her entire persona seems forged as an outsider looking in at a world she fundamentally didn't vibe with.
Yeah, she was not a Texas girl at heart.
Not at all. She despised the heat, the humidity, and that conformist high school football culture of Texas, the heavy emphasis on, prettiness and sports.
You can totally trace the DNA of her entire comedic worldview to that feeling of alienation. I mean, when you are surrounded by a culture that places a heavy, unyielding emphasis on conventional success, you basically have 2 choices. You either conform, or you develop this razor-sharp observational defense mechanism to deconstruct the absurdity of the world around you.
And she obviously chose the latter. So she heads off to Providence College to study history and American studies. And while she's there, she actually enters a Showtime cable network comedy talent search.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And she wins the title of Funniest Person in Rhode Island.
That's such a specific title.
I know, right? She starts dreaming of writing for David Letterman, works briefly as a Boston bike messenger, and eventually makes her way to Los Angeles in the early 90s.
We really need to set the scene of Los Angeles comedy at that specific moment in time, though.
Please do, because it was a weird era.
It was. The early 90s were the tail end of the massive 1980s comedy boom. Comedy clubs were completely defined by brick walls, neon signs, and a very specific type of performer.
Right, the loud guys with the rolled-up sleeves.
Exactly. It was aggressively male-dominated and structurally rigid. The gold standard was this very tight, engineered, setup-punchline format.
Right, so think about her early stand-up like an indie rock band, refusing to play stadium pop anthems.
That is a perfect analogy.
She was totally rejecting the standard setup punchline format for something raw and conversational. Imagine turning on a highly polished reality show and a contestant just stares directly into the camera and reads the production notes out loud.
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall completely.
That is essentially what Janeane Garofalo was doing to stand-up comedy when she arrived in LA. She would walk onto the stages of mainstream clubs like the Improv, and she'd just be observant, highly self-deprecating.
She would literally walk up to the microphone and read directly from a notebook filled with article clippings.
Which is wild, and initially, she bombed.
Well, of course she bombed. She bombed because the audience was conditioned to expect a magic trick,
Right.
Traditional 80s comedy hides the premise and surprises you with the punchline. But Garofalo's comedy was like showing you the trapdoor. She was deconstructing the joke in real time.
Making the audience feel like co-conspirators rather than just like spectators waiting for the applause light.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what's important here is why this mattered. She was actively carving out a new space. By holding her ground, she co-founded what we now universally recognize as the alternative comedy scene.
Yes, the alt comedy boom.
Right. In August 1991, she started a show at Big and Tall Books in Los Angeles. She literally moved comedy out of the clubs and into a bookstore.
Which is such a massive shift in vibe.
Totally. And later, she co-created the Eating It show at Luna Lounge in New York City. She was creating a space where women could talk openly about body image, feminism, and pop culture outside that rigid, male-dominated comedy club structure of the 80s.
Okay, so she proved that this anti-comedy worked in a bookstore. But that indie rock comedy vibe eventually caught the eye of like-minded misfits, which led to her first major television breakthroughs.
And her most notorious professional clash.
Right, but before the clash, it starts at Cantor's Deli in Los Angeles. She's hanging out, and she meets Ben Stiller. They bond over a shared love of the comedy show SCTV and Albert Brooks.
And that shared sensibility is what led to her breakout TV roles. She joined the cast of The Ben Stiller Show on Fox in 1992.
Which had an insane cast role.
Oh, a murderer's row of talent. Bob Odenkirk, David Cross. It was short-lived, but massively influential. And that opened the door for her to play Paula on HBO's The Larry Sanders Show.
Where she earned 2 Emmy nominations.
Exactly. She was phenomenal on it.
But then the sharp turning point happens. The Holy Grail calls. In the fall of 1994, she joins the cast of Saturday Night Live.
Oh.
Yeah, and it becomes The Fallout. She leaves SNL mid-season after only 6 months. She actually described the show as juvenile, homophobic, and sexist.
Wow. She did not hold back.
She called it the most miserable experience of her life, where she was just stuck playing dull wives and girlfriends.
Which is such a waste of her talent.
So what does this all mean for a young comic? You get the Holy Grail of comedy SNL, and you walk away because it compromises your values.
What's fascinating here is how leaving SNL demonstrated her absolute core belief. Success just isn't worth it if you have to suppress your authentic voice.
Which is so rare. Most people just take the paycheck and deal with it.
Right. It could have been disastrous for her career, but instead it proved she couldn't be bought. And surprisingly, the film industry decided they wanted that exact, uncompromising energy.
Well, they wanted it, but they still tried to force her into a box. I mean, walking away from SNL didn't kill her career. It launched her into the stratosphere of 90s cinema.
It really did.
In 1994, she has her breakout role as the quintessential Gen Xer Vicky in Reality Bites.
Iconic.
Then she stars in The Truth About Cats and Dogs as this highly intelligent radio host opposite Uma Thurman. But then we hit the Jerry Maguire controversy.
This story is infuriating.
It really exposes the hypocrisy of Hollywood. So she's offered the lead role opposite Tom Cruise.
The role of Dorothy Boyd, right?
Yeah. Yes. But they tell her she can have the part only if she loses weight.
I mean, just the audacity. They want her anti-establishment brain, but demand she conform to a conventional leading lady physical aesthetic.
And the really cruel irony is that she actually complies. She trims down for the role, does exactly what they ask, and then they give the part to Renee Zellweger anyway.
It perfectly illustrates the impossible double standards of that era. The industry praised her for mocking body image pressures on stage, but enforced them on her behind closed doors.
Exactly. But it didn't stop her from making her own choices. She famously turned down the role of Gail in Wes Craven's Scream.
Wait, really? Scream was huge.
Massive. But she rejected it because she didn't want to be in a movie where a teen girl is disemboweled. She was literally curating her career based on her moral compass.
And she still found these iconic roles anyway. I mean, she was the bowler in Mystery Men.
Love that movie.
She was Beth in Wet Hot American Summer. And she even won a Visual Effects Society award for her voice acting as Colette in Pixar's Ratatouille.
Oh, Ratatouille is a masterpiece. But okay, I have to bring up the Team America. World Police Grudge.
Oh, please do.
This is hilarious. So Trey Parker and Matt Stone parody her in the movie, right? They make a puppet of her and basically kill her off on screen.
Because of her political activism. Yeah.
Right. And you'd think she'd be furious about the violence. But she wasn't mad about being parodied. She was mad because Trey Parker promised to send her the puppet of herself and never did.
That is just, I mean, that connects perfectly back to her comedy persona. She was consistently cast as the cynical, smart, grounded voice of reason. basically playing a heightened version of her stage self.
It's just such a specific, absurd grievance.
It really is.
But as the 2000s rolled in, she took that cynical, smart voice of reason and pointed it directly at the American political landscape. She became a total lightning rod in the process.
She really did. And I think this is a good moment for a quick disclaimer.
Yes, critical instruction for the listeners here. Both of us are impartially reporting the facts directly from the Wikipedia page today. We are not taking a side or endorsing any political views.
Right, we were just looking at the history of her involvement.
Exactly. So she becomes incredibly vocal in her opposition to the 2003 Iraq War. And this leads to frequent, really heated debates on Fox News with figures like Bill O'Reilly.
Which was incredibly risky for an entertainer at that time.
Totally. But her belief was that her celebrity could lend a voice to the anti-war movement when networks were otherwise ignoring them. She even worked a lot with MoveOn.org.
You have to contextualize this era. Garofalo was one of the early pioneers of the modern celebrity political pundit. She was stepping entirely out of her entertainer lane to engage in raw, unscripted cable news warfare.
And she had some incredibly sharp critiques of the Republican Party. Like in 2009, she stated that Michael Steele and conservatives of color had Stockholm Syndrome.
That definitely made headlines.
Yeah. She also called the Tea Party protests racist. And in 2011, she speculated that Herman Cain was actually paid to run to deflect from GOP racism.
She did not pull punches. And that led to her time in progressive radio, right?
Yes. She co-hosted Air America's The Majority Report with Sam Seder. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Oh, the internal conflict.
Yes, it is a wild story. So she passionately supported this 9/11 rescue workers detoxification project.
Which sounds great on paper.
Right, but the project was heavily linked to Scientology.
Wait, what?
Yeah, and this led to a massive on-air fight with Sam Seder. She claimed he only opposed the project because it wasn't linked to Jews.
Oh my goodness.
I know, and the fight got so heated that Seder literally walked off his own show.
That is intense, but it shows how she was just, whether she was fighting Fox News hosts or Hollywood executives or her own co-host, Garofalo was always searching for authenticity.
Yeah, she was uncompromising.
And that journey was just as complex in her personal life.
Definitely. She had some very real personal truths to face, like her struggles with alcoholism. But she went on this journey to get sober and actually achieved sobriety in 2001.
Which is a massive accomplishment, especially in the entertainment industry.
Absolutely. And, okay, we have to circle back to the hook.
The Vegas marriage.
Yes. The resolution of the 1991 Las Vegas joke marriage to Robert Cohen.
Remind me, they met on the Ben Stiller show, right?
Yep, he was a writer, so they both thought it wasn't legal unless it was filed locally, but then they discover in 2012 that it was completely binding.
How did they even find out?
Cohen tried to marry someone else, and State was like, you're already married to Janeane Garofalo.
That is unbelievable.
So they actually had to get an official divorce after 20 years of accidental marriage.
Honestly, it's just so fitting for her life story.
It really is. And her evolution of self-discovery just keeps going. In 2019, she publicly came out as asexual.
Which, again, just shows her living out loud on her own terms.
Yeah. And think about how hard it is to figure out who you are in private, right? Now imagine doing it while navigating Hollywood, cable news, and stand-up stages for 3 decades.
It's staggering. And you really see that in her incredible adaptability. Her later television career is just prolific.
Oh, she bounces between totally diverse genres.
Right. From writing a spoof self-help book called Feel This Book with Ben Stiller to deep, dramatic television.
Like The West Wing.
Exactly. And she never stopped working. She was on 24, which she actually joined despite having misgivings about its depiction of torture.
Oh, her reasoning for that is so funny. She basically said she did it because she was flattered and unemployed.
See, that's just raw honesty.
It is. And then she does Broad City, and she even has a voice role coming up in a 2026 Stranger Things animated project.
She just never stops evolving.
So when you look at the incredible scope of her life, from a disgruntled high schooler in Houston to an alt comedy pioneer,
A blockbuster movie star.
a political lightning rod, and really just an authentic survivor, it's an amazing journey.
It is. And I think there's a really provocative final thought to leave you with today.
Let's hear it.
Janeane Garofalo was often penalized in the 90s and 2000s for refusing to fit neatly into a prescribed box. Whether that was a traditional comedy structure or, a Hollywood leading lady aesthetic, or just being a quiet celebrity who stays out of politics.
Right.
But look at the media landscape today. Did the world simply catch up to the exact alternative reality she was trying to build all along?
Wow, that is entirely possible. She was just 30 years early to the party.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a wild ride. Keep asking questions, stay curious, and we'll catch you on the next one.